Joshua Tree National Park is one of the most interesting and unique national parks that I've been to. There's giant granite boulders, it looks like a weird moonscape, and the trees themselves look like they're sort of out of Dr. Seuss.
First of all, it's beautiful. It has something mystical too.
It's something that if you've lived in the city long enough, you go out and you immediately feel different.
It evokes people to stretch their imaginations to the greatest limits, to imagine what might be living there.
One of the most amazing things about Joshua Tree National Park is the light and the space and the people. The place has a really unique spirit.
So these parks, they belong to everyone. And the idea is that these places are static in that the beauty of Joshua Tree will always be here. I grew up going to national parks. My family camped in them. I knew that they were special, sacred places that needed to be taken care of. Not everyone's gotten that education. Well, I think, historically and prehistorically, we've always had graffiti of some sort. We've had Native Americans doing rock art for thousands of years. We had cowboys and settlers coming out here 150 years ago, etching into the rocks. But the real challenges here at Joshua Tree probably were about 4 or 5 years ago. We started to see an upswing in graffiti.
The case study I was given when I got here was Barker Dam, which back in 2011 had no graffiti on its surface at all. There was a little bit of graffiti that started in the fall of 2011, and then after that it just spread like wildfire across there.
So graffiti has been a problem in national parks for a long time, but very recently we've had 2 very high-profile cases. The first was the Casey Knockett incident in late October of last year. Casey Knockett went on a really awesome road trip through the parks of the West, but according to her Instagram feed, she was allegedly drawing in all these parks. And then more recently, the graffiti artist known as Mr. Andre also may have tagged a boulder inside Joshua Tree's borders with his trademark Mr. A symbol.
Tagging or street art, graffiti, these are forms of expression, but when they come into a national park, when they come into a protected place, to public lands, it no longer is art or expression, it's vandalism. We thought if we looked at it with a slightly out-of-the-box way of thinking, perhaps with a view toward the art world, perhaps with a view to bringing youth into the answer, that this might be a way that we could solve this problem.
I love graffiti in cities, on buildings. I love when I explore cities and just walk through the streets and I see a little piece of art. I love that.
I think that graffiti speaks a lot about what's going on in a designated community.
I think it's an incredibly important voice of the people, especially the people who won't be listened to if they're not writing in obstructive ways.
It can be beautiful, but it all comes down to intent and context.
A national park, I really don't think it's appropriate.
It becomes inappropriate if it's in a natural or historical landmark.
The national park is just not the place. People will see your name instead of the beauty of the park.
So this Otis College and Joshua Tree collaboration is really interesting. There are groups of students who are working with Joshua Tree National Park to develop 4 different programs to sort of tackle this graffiti problem. They are sort of trying to figure out what the root cause of this graffiti is.
The graffiti that took place at Barker Dam, that was high school kids. You work with young people. You are young people. Give us some ideas. What motivates kids to do that? And can you help us come up with another idea?
A big part of the graffiti community that we've noticed at Joshua Tree is tagging their names and the names of their loved ones. So we figured validation was a really important part, and we wanted to provide temporary installations of name plaques. The plants themselves, to which the name plaques would be attacked, are geotagged, so for years and years and years people can come back, get the coordinates, and check out the plant that they helped raise.
My team's idea was an interactive book.
It was part sketchbook, part reference book, part sort of diary for people to come and document their experiences in the park.
And then later go and repurpose it online to a community.
That would gear people towards the Joshua Tree social media, putting the park and the people out into a public platform so that they could be recognized.
My team's idea is the Joshua Tree Film Project, a class designed to help local students in the area.
And really take them away from tagging and redirect the creative energy into making short films that revolve around the park.
The most surprising thing I found from this group, they weren't punitive at all. It wasn't a citizens watch group. It was giving our audience other ways to communicate their needs. They needed notoriety and naming. Here's a way they could do it. If they didn't have a love for the park, by filming themselves inside the park, by making a film production inside the park and getting an education, they're going to get it in the process. So it was definitely thinking outside the box, way outside the box as far as I'm concerned.
Most of these students had never been to Joshua Tree, some had never been to a national park before, or had never been camping before, and it was a very exciting experience for a lot of them. We had a great time out camping and sitting around the campfire. We had amazing conversations. College-age students, it's not a demographic that the parks often engage with in quite such an active way, so hopefully this is the beginning of great things to come.
Well, Creative Action is a program that all students that go to Otis have to take. The courses are comprised of every discipline at the college. They work in teams, and they use their art and design skills to hopefully bring change to a community, to a nonprofit, an NGO, or a government agency.
I think for me the most exciting thing that came out of that opportunity was the passion that these students have, not just for protecting places, but for the National Park Service as a whole. They are the ones who will carry this legacy forward, and what I saw in that room helps me sleep better at night.
To the students who collaborated on this project, you have my heartfelt thanks. You're making a change in this park, and a change for the better. And in a way that I can't do it, my staff can't do it, and I am eternally grateful.
Since we finished the Joshua Tree class, a number of things have happened. We've been able to start to realize the video project, working with the younger people in the community. And I think what was so great about how our students looked at this problem was that they really did look deep into that community that surrounds that Joshua Tree area and come up with something that really would have a long-term effect for the park. And I plan on running the class for a number of years, and it'll be really interesting to see what other classes come up with in terms of solutions. And hopefully some of those solutions can be replicated at some of the other national parks around the country.